This character is level 101. It's got an item level of 820 and it plays like an overpowered god. In this video, I'll be talking about level 101 Twinking, which is a bizarre upshot of how Legion's numbers systems basically interact with each other. I'll go over how you can do this, then why you would actually want to do it or bother with it in the first place, which is, I admit, something that's a little bit niche. Now, how does this work? Well, as you know, the world of Legion is scaled to the level of your character. It isn't scaled to your item level though, so a level 101 character with a high item level is going to be extremely powerful in comparison to the mobs that are in the world. This is similar to how a regular character would feel at max level after, say, 2 raid tiers of really good gear and really good trinkets. The stat interaction is then something which kind of further compounds with how BOE world epics drop. These have a low chance of warforging to have an exceptionally high item level, even though they only require you to be level 101 to equip them. These can warforge all the way up to item level 860, so you can really have exceptionally high item levels as a level 101 character. But that isn't the only source of power. I think the real source of power here and what's really at work is secondary stat conversion rates. So as you level up, the number of rating for a stat that you need to get 1% of that stat increases. So if you are, say, item level 700 and level 101, you will have a sane amount of crit, haste, mastery, etc. If you are item level 820 and level 101, you will have an insane amount of secondary stats. This BOE gear can then, have a socket. It will accept Legion enchants, even though those Legion enchants are scaled to your level, so they're not as powerful as they perhaps could have been. Overall, though, stuff is completely mental, as you will see in this video. Now let's talk about gearing. So first, if you want to do this, you need to go to the AH. You then need to enter 101 to 101 as a gear filter, then order your results by level. This will give you an item level ordered list of gear. Now each armor type has 4 different BOE world epics in sort of 4 different armor categories, for the different slots. You then have access to 3 types of rings, 3 cloaks, some necks, and then trinkets as well. Now all that really matters here is that you buy the 830 plus gear with a decent stat for you. The prices really, they can increase insanely due to the rarity here, so really 830 plus is all you need. Now as far as armor goes, well, you might want to do something that you mightn't intuitively think of. Breaking your armor bonus, which is what you get if you wear all plate and you're a plate wearing class, but if you break that, you do lose 5% mastery. If you look at my paladin, it's wearing mail and leather. Why? Well, even though you lose 5% mastery, you end up getting so much sort of stats from an 830 piece that it's worth losing that 5% mastery and then having something which maybe as a strength class is giving you agility instead of strength. Now doing all of this can range in price from 150k to 800k depending on your server prices. Of course, you don't need to go full, whole hog to get all the benefits. And finally, you can go super hardcore and only buy gear with Leech. It scales insanely well with your damage, really to the point where you can basically be invincible because you're doing an insane amount of damage with, say, 20% Leech, which just heals you for a crazy amount. And now your weapon will be the lowest item level thing on your character, bar perhaps your second trinket, which will likely be a crafted 715. Your artifact can easily be grinded up though by basically opening the chest between boss 1 and 2 in Neltharion's Lair. That'll give you 200 AP a pop, and then just doing, of course, your order hall missions. Now, overall, you will be an unstoppable beast here. Nothing will be able to kill you in the open world, and you'll be able to actually solo Legion dungeons all by yourself, which, even if it isn't that useful, it's really cool. You just do want to be sure to deactivate XP gains so that you don't level up. Okay, why would you actually want to do this? That's a good question. I mean, it's cool, but why the hell bother? So you can actually make gold here by selling dungeon boosts to, characters who are leveling. This isn't happening as much now. It was a bigger thing near the start of the expansion, so really, I think other than farming, there's not a massive benefit here past any enjoyment that you might have from it. Maybe you want to do some PvP, boost your friends. That's one thing I'm doing with my level 101 Twink. I'm boosting a few friends of mine through dungeons where they're leveling up. But let's talk about the farming. So if you want to farm, this is actually one of the best ways to do it in the game, bar none. Even competing, surpassing level 110 characters. Nothing will be able to touch you. You'll be able to pull crazy numbers on the mobs, and you'll have no chance of dying. This is particularly good if you're playing a class that's great at AoE farming, maybe say a balanced druid. All of the popular skinning spots work perfectly with this, and in most cases they're far more effective than they would be at level 110. A nice bonus here is you can get a Twink farming alt ready in a few hours versus the likely weeks of gearing that it would take to reach a similar level of relative power at level 110. Now, for some reason I twinked a paladin, so these world AoE skinning farms are not possible. My personal favorite though is something that I learned from Umrin. It's soloing Darkheart Thicket Trash up to before the second boss, and then just doing skinning and herbalism. It is amazing how many materials actually drop from these mobs. You get loads of bloods, loads of skinning stomachs, loads of, herbs, and then of course loads of leather. Selling these all raw will give you a pretty good amount of money, though you will be able to make even more if your other characters can process those raw materials into things that have a higher value. Now, I do things slightly different to Umran, and in his video, he uses a DPS spec with loads of leech gear. I use a tank with no leech gear. The leech stuff was always like 150k plus per slot, which was like far too much money for it to be worth it for me. And now his route basically takes from 5.5 to 6.5 minutes, whereas mine takes around 7 minutes with a tank. Although I wasn't using Darkmoon Firewater to speed up my gathering times. So essentially the first pull is just up to and including the first 2 bears. You want to focus down the birds though, because they do a stun, which obviously is not very nice at all, especially if you're actively healing yourself back up as a tank. After that, I then pull just about everything up into the first boss in one pull, but I do skip a few bears. I then nuke them all down, and here's where I save up Divine Shield, because I would probably die otherwise. So I use Divine Shield to survive through that. Of course, 5-minute cooldown, so it works well with farming spot. So I do that, kill all those mobs, I then skip the first boss, pull all the trash in and around there, I LOS pull them, nuke them all down, herb them up, rinse and repeat. Umran's numbers from 30k to 50k gold per hour from this are pretty much spot on. So I think that farming thing is a really cool thing if you're into that. Overall, I'd say this is of limited use to a broad audience, but I think it's an interesting curiosity to explain anyway. Certainly, it seems like there's a lot of people who, based on my tweets, were not aware that this was a thing when I was just talking with people about testing it out. So I think that's really all that I have for this one. This is really niche, but I think it's actually really cool, and it's worth telling people about it as almost just a way to further understand the numbers and the systems that drive World of Warcraft, and how the really cool scaling system in Legion actually plays with how secondary stat conversions play out, to the point where you can get, like right now I'm like a base 60% crit, 60% haste. If I take the Seraphim talent, I go up to like 85% haste and crit, which is insane. And, you can be plus, over 100, maybe 120% crit if you are a class that's really useful for you, and you then get, say, loads of gear that's sort of around that, whereas I just got a broad mix of gear for my character. But that's it for this video. A quick look at twinking in Legion, how you could do it, why you would want to do it, and just, shooting the shit about it. If you're interested, then yeah, sure, give it a go. If you're not, then hopefully at least you'll learn something about the stats and systems that drive how Legion works. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.